Okay. Well, it's still morning, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Everyone familiar with the new product catalog? Actually, it's already outdated with some of the product we've added to this. But really, what I wanted to do this morning was give you a refresher as far as where we are at currently, how we stand against the competition, where we want to grow, some of the products we've added to our product line to really increase our product scope. So when we get involved in more and more of these products, we bring a lot more to the table. Not only on the product side, but also as on the services side, some of our capabilities. It's really opened a lot of doors for us. We're getting involved in a lot more projects now. And what I'm going to talk to primarily this morning is really what we're going to be adding within the next couple of months to really promote our product line even further, get into the engineering specs. And once that happens, I think you'll see a snowballing effect as far as product being specified or accepted as an approved vehicle. Make sure I got the right one here. So, really it's focusing on website. That's an easy one. That's something that we haven't really addressed for a number of years, but you see more and more people taking advantage of the website, finding information, sizing information, specifications, 3D drawings. Once they have that, if you go out and talk to the engineers, that makes your job that much easier once you're in the specifications. And that's what they've been telling us as far as, hey, do you have the 3D drawings and the specifications on your website so we can just drop them right into our plans and then from there tailor the specifications. So that's in the works. Tentatively, I've been told it'll be released prior to ASHRAE, which is in January of 2017. Catalog and literature. This is a great resource. It's really, though, people that have the preference of still holding that book or paper in their hands, but it's a wealth of information. It's more than just a product catalog. It's actually a design catalog as well. A wealth of information in there. Even from a novice, I mean, if you want to get some basic information as far as how traps work, how products are applied, it gives you all that information. In the back, there's typical application drawings. There's a crossover guide in the back, so it's really a nice crossover resource tool as well. Try to emphasize this as much as I can. This is a document that we do have out, but we are a U.S. manufacturer, not only on manufacturing in Pottstown, PA, but the resources as far as our raw materials. Typically we have a slide after this. When you look at our product, when you start with the traps, the cast iron, the ductile irons, that comes out of a foundry over in Hamburg, PA. Our stainless steel for our TD traps, it's actually bar stock yet. This comes out of Carpenter Tech over in Reading, the bar stock. Our regulators, again, ductile iron regulators, that comes out of Hamburg, PA. The cast steel, that comes out of Hazleton, PA. Our pumps, the larger pumps, come out of Zanesville, Ohio. So it is a U.S. domestic product. And these are all components that we do manufacture. And for the most part, I'd say it's 90+% of our product that is U.S. domestic. There are products that we outsource as well to complete a product line. We don't do anything with safety relief valves. We use Combraco. We are bringing in some larger size valves now to complement our pneumatic and electric actuated valves. And we'll talk about those as well. This is a shot of our old fabrication facility. It is an ASME coat shop, so we can custom fabricate ASME coated vessels. That part of the industry of our business has really grown to the point where we actually put an addition onto the factory now to bring that under one roof. That's our 20,000 square foot addition. That's where we're going to do our fabrication now. We're doing so much of that now in terms of heat exchanger packages, pump packages, custom packages for customers now that are coming to us and say, can you guys fabricate this? So that's something we've just completed probably about 4 months ago now. It hasn't been fully transferred over to this site right now. I was just telling Jim we had a large project with First Energy, so they didn't want to upset the terms of getting that product out the door. This is a pretty neat machine. This is our CNC machine, computerized machining. This is where we're doing our HD regulators now. Unfortunately, I took a video when I was standing there taking a video. Somebody came up behind me and started talking. and I lost track, and I'm starting talking so you could hear my whole conversation there. But you can do the 1/2 to 6-inch HD regulators. We're actually coming out with an 8-inch HD regulator as well. But it normally takes from raw product to a finished machine regulator about 20 to 25 minutes in this machine. The tolerances are excellent on this thing. You can actually stand there, see the design printout on the screen within tenths or hundredths. And this machine takes it from a raw, unfinished product to a completely finished product. That was about Richard Pickett told me about $575,000. So we are investing in new product, new equipment. We've really changed in the last, even since I came on with Watson 7 years ago, so different as far as what we see now. Everyone familiar with our heat exchanger packages? We see a big growth opportunity in this area. Again, more and more end users want to have basically the plug and play. Hey, bring it in, I make my few connections, you guys start it up for me, and I'm up and running. This is something that's really taken off for us. I mean, there's multiple options on this. This is part of the brochure, but here we show what we call our heat miser. It's really just an alpha Laval stainless steel plate pad. From there, we just complement that with our control valves, pump, or traps, whatever it actually needs for those applications. John just had a nice one over at Mott's. We were hoping to start that up last week. But there's so many variable options on here. We can do the plate and frames. We'll skip through a couple of these guys. All the components are really designed to the application, to what the customer needs. Hey, do we need a pneumatic valve? Do we need an electric actuator? Can we go pilot off valve? Do we need pumps? Can we just do a trap? We really look at the application and design a package to fit that application. We've now partnered, we're dealing directly with Alpha Laval, so now we have a direct source from Alpha Laval. We have the sizing software in-house now, so it really expedites our turnaround time as far as a design package, getting that package out the quote. What we hope to do is basically have in the next product catalog, which this is right out of the product catalog as well, but have these things on the shelf so that if a customer does call in, we will have these 3 different size heat exchanger packs on the shelf, and we can just assemble them right at the factory. We can do shell and tubes as well. We can do the horizontal or the verticals. Again, whatever the application requires or the preference of the customer, we can actually custom a heat exchanger package to the actual needs. This is another, again, talk about tools or resources. This is one that may have been, oh no, I take that back. This is actually Campfield State Correctional. This is something that we go out into the field now, because a lot of times you go out to the customer. This is pertaining to designing a heat exchanger. First thing you ask your customer is, what are the flow demands? I don't know. You could do the old Hunter curve, go out there and do a fixture count. A lot of times those numbers are greatly exaggerated compared to what you actually need. Now we can actually go out into the field. We use an ultrasonic water meter. We'll leave that on for a week's time and actually get a data as far as what the actual flow demands are. Now we can actually design a heat exchanger to match the exact application. So that's a great tool to work with. Chris Jury just had the one we just did, Chambersburg Hospital. I'm not sure what's going to be the outcome on that one. That was interesting. Over a week's period of time, they still have the laundry service in-house. So for about a 5-minute period when they were running that laundry service, they were flowing 300 GPM. The rest of the day, they were down between maybe 75 and 150 gallons per minute on a pretty constant flow basis. But this is a great tool. Again, it puts you into another level with the customer. These are things that we can go out, assist with designing a system rather than just doing the fixture count or whatever and saying, okay, 100 gallons per minute, oversizing everything. It really assists in designing a system that's going to be very accurate and a great asset to the company. Custom packages, this is what we'll be doing. We do a lot of these in-house now, whether it's a simplex, duplex. These can be customized. That's just a standard duplex pump package. But again, ASME code shop, we can do all these, put the code stamp on all our vessels. Our turnaround on these pumps anymore is very quick, better than anybody within the industry. but more importantly, we do it in-house. We don't outsource this product to an outside fabricator. This is all done in-house. Electric pumps. I threw this in there because we've renegotiated, and you'll see this in the next price book. We've renegotiated our terms with Sterling. We've noticed over the last several years that a lot of times we're just not that competitive. I mean, we're basically a third-party source for the electric pumps. Now we've renegotiated our partnership with Sterling, so we've got a much better pricing level. It's actually less than what we have in our current product catalog, or price guide. So really makes us that much more competitive in that marketplace. We talk about the other manufacturers out there. Right now it's really an opportune time for Watson McDaniel. A lot of the manufacturers within our industry are really in a flux. Spence was the biggest one. For years, Spence was they were like the Cadillac. They were like the #1 guys in the U.S. marketplace for regulators. Well, once they were acquired by Secor and they moved all their operations over to India, their quality just really fell off a cliff. So Watson has so many Spence reps and customers calling us and saying, hey, can you guys make us or have available a pilot to replace the Spence? That's where we started with the Spence line. So if you're familiar with the Spence D pilot, we now manufacture a pilot. Has the same mounting body on it just like that. We show it in the bottom left hand or bottom right hand corner there. So it matches up directly, has the same spring ranges. So if your customer had an old Spence valve, they needed a replacement pilot, we have one that's going to fit right back on it. There's no need to change any of your tubing connections. You can see it matches up directly. We also incorporated into this a strainer. There's a screen in there, so again, to protect that, which a Spence pilot did not have. You can also add to that if you want. If your customer wants it, you can add that blowdown valve to it. So it makes it a much better design for that application on the Spence E valve. They also came to us and said, hey, the T14s, do you guys have a replacement for the Spence T14 pilots? We do across the board. Again, direct replacement. No changes are required on the pipe fitting or the pilot tubing. Same bulb connections. We've also introduced, everyone familiar with our HB valve. Initially we were going to market this as the HB valve, Hans Baumann. If you were familiar with Dr. Hans Baumann, he was the Fisher guy, he was the Mason Nealon, he was one of their primary design engineers. Hans Baumann actually came to Watson McDaniel as a consultant to help us manufacture and design this valve. The nice thing about this valve is based on Hans Baumann's recommendations. As far as the options on the body material, 316L. Opted not to go with a bronze body, opted not to go with a cast iron or the ductile iron. It really minimizes the inventory, but we're very competitively priced regardless of the materials, simply because some of the designs that we incorporated into it. You can see the different adders. We don't manufacture the positioner, that's Control Air out of Connecticut. Again, you can mount anybody's positioner. That is a no more mounting, so anybody's positioner mounts to that valve. You don't have to use the Control Air positioner. The nice thing about this valve design, though, really is stainless steel body, 1/2 to 2 inch, close-off pressures up to 300 psi, even without a positioner on there. Single pneumatic actuator. You don't have to have the 2 or 3 different actuators on your shelf. It's really just to change out on the springs within the actuator housing. We'll get into a little bit of the body design. But these are some of the things we incorporated into this. It was actually designed on a flow computer, so you could actually see internally where the wear points would be as steam passed through that valve. We could actually reduce the wear points internally, as well as the pressure drop on the valve. Just gives you a better view of the internals. But as far as how we can be competitively priced, all the manufacturing on the machining end is done through the bottom of the valve. The bonnet is actually integral to the valve body, so there's not a leak point here. It's just really one process on the manufacturing side where we do all the internals. The seat is integral to the valve body. That way you get very tight tolerances on there. If for whatever reason in the future, if you did have a wear on the seat, if you ever worked on a valve and you had to remove that seat, once you pull those seats out there, you're not guaranteeing yourself you're going to have a tight seating point after that replacement. So the cost of the body itself is really negligible at that point. So we just really have the integral seat, non-repairable on the seat itself. Again, just more flow going through the valve. 1/2 to 2 inch, but it's the same actuator on there. We can't put flanges on there. As we progress into the generation of this valve, right now it's really NPT, but we can add flanges to that, which I'm looking forward to. And what we do right now at the factory, if we have to add flanges as well, really just let's say a pipe nipple to that and put the flanges on there. It's done to ASME specs. It's just a little odd looking when you look at it, but we can add flanges on there if the customer wants. This is a great addition to the line as well. This is an actuator from PS Automation. This is out of Germany. We actually have 2 different actuators. This is where if you need accurate control, something similar to a pneumatic valve, very quick responding. You can see on here the travel time, when we talk about the travel time, 6 to 8 seconds. That's from a closed position to a wide open or vice versa. So very response, opening and closing time. So if you were doing this on domestic water, this is what we have over months. Very responsive. A lot of times you see a lot of end users now moving away from pneumatics because of the cost of air. We needed something that would perform relatively close to a pneumatic valve. Now we have an electric actuated valve. The nice thing about this, even though it's electric actuated, you can program that to fail open, fail close. It has supercapacitors internal, meaning we don't need battery backup in the event that power goes out. You can set that to fail close or open because of the supercapacitors internal on that. If you didn't need something that responsive, we also have another actuator on there. It has about a 30 to 40 second rotation on there, comparable to some of the lower end actuators that are out there. I put this one on here. Basically, now you can go to our current product catalog and say, okay, here's the capacities on the HB. This is something we're going to be integrating into our new website, and hopefully this opens up. I stuck it on the flash drive. Looks like it is. This is something that will be on the website under the resource tab. So now, right now it's only from the 1/2 to 2 inch. This is on the HB valve. But if you wanted to size a valve, and the customer wanted to have you size the valve, it's pretty simple. It's not showing up on this guy though. You can see it up on that screen, but not here. I'm not sure why. But in any case, I was trying to figure this thing out. Really, if you had to size up the control valve, you input your flow, inlet pressure, outlet pressure. From there, this does all the calculations for you. It'll give you your velocity flow through the valve, predicted noise levels on your dBA. It'll give you a percentage of opening based on the valve you selected. It'll give you a suggested valve size. You'll say, okay, well, maybe I don't need that flow, maybe I'll put an 1.5 inches, and it'll recalculate based on the valve you input. So it gives you a lot of information. It also gives you the capability of inputting the existing pipe size, which will change your velocities and your noise levels. Once you input that data though, this is on the next page of it, it gives you a performance curve on how that valve is going to perform relative to the application flow versus the design flow of the valve. So it gives you all that information. And it's nice when you're actually quoting a valve to be able to include those 2 pages as part of your valve submittal cost. That way somebody looks at it, gets all the parameters, the design capabilities of the valve to evaluate it from manufacturer A to manufacturer B. Okay, why did we slip here? We've also, now the HB went from 1/2 to 2 inch, but if we're going to be in the valve market, we need valves to cover a greater market share, and a lot of times that's going to encompass valves 2.5 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 6 inch upward. Our goal right now is go from We don't have a 2.5 inch, we're just going to use a reduced port. So we have a 3 inch with a standard port and a 3 inch reduced port up to a 6 inch valve. These are cast steel body valves. Again, very competitively priced in the marketplace, even against if you're doing a cast iron valve. It's surprising how competitively priced these valves are. Richard Pickett actually traveled the world to find a manufacturing plant that he wanted to buy. Just wasn't happy what he came across out there. So he had a partner over in, I believe this is Portugal, ADCA, ADCA. They're actually manufacturing the valve casting for us right now. Real nice valve, globe style valve. You can get it pneumatically actuated, or you can actually use the same electric actuators we were looking on the HB valve. But this really covers the board, or across the board for the larger valve requirements. You'll see a lot of these on, we're doing a lot of these on our heat misers right now with the 3 and a 4 inch valves. Again, cast iron body, this is going to be all cast steel, very high close off pressures. We have these in stock right at the plant in Pottstown. Okay. For some reason I'm not seeing it on this screen. Everyone familiar with our HD regulators, the pilot up valves? Again, our goal is, when we get to the website, hopefully that'll come up. When you look at these different products that we have up there, on the website, you'll be able to click on this valve, let's say the HD valve, and it'll give you the competitions equivalent to that. If we were to click on the HD, what would come up would be the Spence E valve, the Sparks Arco 25 valve. So now we can look at it, say, as far as, hey, does this match up to the Spence valve or the Sparks Arco? Simply by clicking on the HD valves. This valve really, right now, as far as the marketplace, is becoming the #1 pilot up valve in the industry. Spence, unfortunately, is being made overseas. Sparks Arco, same thing. A lot of their components now are being made overseas. Ductile iron body, everyone else has a cast iron body. There's a lot of key features to this valve when we look at it. It's a ductile iron, so we can actually use this up to 300 psi. Patterson-Kelley has now converted over to Watson McDaniel. We're using the HD valve on all Patterson-Kelley valves, or heat exchanger packages coming out. But again, the calculator, this will be online too as well. It's a little different from what will be online. This is something I could leave this behind with you guys if you want to play around with it. Very similar to what we were just looking at. I can't change it on here though for some reason. To what we saw on the HD valve, or the HB valve. The nice feature on this one is, if we were to click on this drop-down box, we can select valve only, or we can select a valve with a noise attenuation on there, depending on what the dVA levels are. But again, all we're going to do is input the flow required, inlet pressure, outlet pressure. It does all the calculations for us at that point. It'll give us a suggested valve size. Okay, I can match up. We can also input the pipe sizing that may be existing or under new construction. From there, it runs all the numbers. It gives us all that data points, gives you the dBAs, which is very important now. There's another page to this, gives us the flow curve as well. So it gives you all that data. And I've already used this on a lot of the project quotes that I've done recently. It really adds to the information that you provide with your quotes. I think if there's anything else on that one. The one thing you'll notice though is a lot of these calculations, when it comes up with a CV and it gives us that graph with the max flow curves, it doesn't match up exactly what's in the product catalog. And from what I understand, these are all mathematical equations based on these CV values. So they differ in that respect. So if somebody says, well, in the product catalog, it gives me 1,000 pounds an hour. Based on this, you're telling me I can do 1,100 or 1,200 pounds an hour. Talking with Bob Collins and Greg, this number calc is very accurate. It's a very up-to-date, accurate calculation. But you can see at the bottom here, it'll even develop a quote sheet if you wanted to. You could even put your name onto the thing and submit it that way. and it'll have all this documentation attached to that. That's a great feature because a lot of times when you're working with an end user or an engineering firm, this is the information they're looking for. I don't think I can change this up here, can I?
Close it up.
Yeah, I'll try that again. Ah, okay. There we go. Let's just see what's. Let's see how easy this thing is. Let's say 125. Let's see how it's going down to 25. Oops. And really, that's all there is to it. Once we put in those 3 data points, you can see how it changes all the calculations here. Tells me my pressure drop, velocity flows through the valve, does a CV calc for me. Here it's telling me I should use a 1-inch reduced port. And you look at that again and say, okay, a 1-inch reduced port. Sometimes you're in a very competitive quoting process or project. That's going to add a little about 5% to the valve with a reduced port. So I say, well, I don't want to go that. I can go in and put my full port in there. And you can see how it changes all the numbers as far as CV values. Gives us all that data point, and again, it gives us, there's our flow. And you can see the capacity of the valve itself is so much greater than what our actual requirement is. That's why I came up with the reduced port. So if I went back in there and did it that way, you can see how much closer I am to the valve design. And this is very good, because when you talk about control valves or regulators, little difference as far as where do I want to be on that curve. When you're looking at a regulator, you want to be somewhere between the 80 to 95% max flow, which is very close to what we have here. When you get into a control valve, then you can be in that 50, 60, 70% range as far as capacities. So these are great tools that are coming down the road. I could leave these with you, Jim.
That'd be great.
The HD and the HB.
A lot of engineers want to see that just to make sure, hey, this valve sized properly.
Yeah.
You know, oh, we got to go up to 2-inch valves, 1.5 inches because we're, you know, you're right at the limit. You can show them that, so it'd be great. You know.
Like it'll give you, like let's say you chose 3/4 full port. Would it give you error messages or anything
Yes.
like that?
This is actually the 6th version we've been on this thing. and these are some of the things that we've been picking apart. You know, the first version, it didn't give you anything. So yeah, you can see here. Well, let's see. Okay. I still have capacity on there.
Around the 1/2 inch ones.
Yeah, there you go. And the nice thing about it there again too is you can play with this thing. Say if you had a project, let's say it's an institution or a hospital, and they wanted DBA levels around 85 or less. You can play around with the valve sizes to see how that affects your velocity flow through there, and at the same time it's going to affect your DBA level. You can see here I'm still at, you know, just 70% or 69.9 DBA level, so well within the criteria. I mean, those are some of the things that really gives you that information on where in the past you just made assumptions. Said, okay, the DBA levels are actually done based on current calculations, where years ago some of the calculations used for DBA levels were fairly obscure and not that accurate. These are the current noise level calculations done on this one. This is a part of an area where we're really focusing on now is growing this clean steam. You guys know we've partnered with Donaldson. We're working continue with those guys to really expand this product line. Watson's always had the traps. And really, when I talk about the traps, the leader in this industry for years was Spirax-Sarco on the clean steam side. We have a direct replacement as far as any equal to the variations of the variable traps that are available from Spirax-Sarco. So we have a direct replacement, whether it's their BT6, BTM7s, their high capacity traps, we have a direct replacement on it. The thing that you always run into is validation. A lot of the facilities you come into, all this equipment is validated, and for them to go back in and to revalidate on a particular process that's already in place, very expensive for them to do that. where our opportunities are on new equipment, new projects, things of that nature, where we can say, yes, we match the product across the board. We've always had the traps, now we're getting into the regulators, the clean steam filters, the separators, which really completes the circle as far as the clean steam products. So these are all things that are coming within the next, I would say the next 6 months to a year, once we get full inventory on all this product. Software, I think I've talked about this in the past. We've been overwhelmed with the number of inquiries now as far as, hey, do you guys do steam trap surveys? I try to stay away from the larger ones. I try to encourage the customer to utilize an independent guy, because I mean you're normally looking at several days, if not more, to try to do a trap survey. But if you have a small account where they might have 50 up to 100 traps, where we can do it within a day's time, this is great software, because really we can input all that data for them, give them the information, but it also calculates a steam loss or dollar loss based on the actual trap size or orifice size. Gives them all that information. We can change that data information as well if they want to have a little bit more or a little bit less information in the printout. We'll give them a PDF as well as an electronic copy of that as well, so they can actually use that going forward. Nice software to have, though. It's not proprietary. If they want to buy that software, they can buy it as well. So another key point to have in there. This is just a screenshot, really, as far as what's required to fill out that data sheet. And all that information is inputted on one single page. You can actually input photographs in there for future references, but it gives them a complete database of all the traps they have out there. And from that point forward, they can record that data. You know, how many failed traps occur on an annual basis? Is there a particular area that we're seeing more failures than others? And really, you can come up with a good plan and maintenance goal using that. I threw some of these up here. I mean, this is something we've been focusing on. We will have calculators just like the TLV app. I use that on my phone as well. That'll be something we can address. When we look at the product, though, we look at core product and say, okay, how do we compare? We'll get to that in a minute. YouTube, this will be on the website as well. Right now we do have a YouTube channel. The nice thing about this is when we talk about the HD regulator, if you have a customer that has an issue with it and they're not sure how to test it, they can go to YouTube. Right there, the HD regulator. All the videos on the HD regulator are on the YouTube channel. They can go in there and look at it, get a good video as far as how to troubleshoot an HD valve. This will be part of the new website. We do have this now. It's really in the back of the product catalog, but a crossover guide. Again, it's just to assist your customer on crossing if they do have a competitor's product from their product to ours. I threw a couple of these in here. We look at the pressure motor pumps. You see a lot of these out in the field. So how do you guys compare? Just real quick, when we look at it, they're both ductile iron. This is a Spark Sarco PTC, Watson McDaniel PMPC. Spark Sarco, ASME, U-stamp not available. Whether they've never really gone that route, but on the Watson pump, if required, we can put a UM stamp. And what does that mean? It just means that the wall is consistent throughout the pump body. We can actually put a UM stamp on our pump bodies. Here's where you always see the difference of somebody says, Spark Sarcos has a 3-year warranty, Watson McDaniel, our printed warranty says 1 year. So how do you fight that one? Roadblock already. Really, this 3-year warranty, our standard is 1. We give the customer that flexibility. If you're working with the end user, the guy that's going to have it in the hospital, whatever it might be, as long as it's sized properly, we'll put that 3-year warranty on there. They can note it on their pump, and it's actually noted at the factory at that time. Quick, easy check when we talk about how do I determine whether it's sized properly. If you stand there physically, and as long as it doesn't cycle more than 3 times per minute, we know the pump's sized properly. We'll put that 3-year warranty on there, no additional charge. The nice flexibility thing about it is contractors. Those guys don't want that 3-year warranty. That's their time and labor to go out there. If they do, in fact, 2.5 years from now, we'll have to go out and do some type of work on the pump. Under warranty, hey, that's great for the end user, but for the mechanical, that's his time and labor, so it gives him that flexibility. Do I want a 3-year warranty, or do I just want to issue a 1-year warranty? We can provide ASME coated receivers. Sparks Arco, their standard is non-coated. But this is something I wanted to show you guys, just as a comparison as far as where we stand cost-wise. When you look at this is our current list price on the Sparks Arco 2x2. First thing that always comes up with an engineer is, you guys got to be doing something. You can't be that less. Well, number one, Sparks Arco is a publicly held company. They've got stockholders. They've got to answer to those guys. They want to keep their share values up. McDaniel is a privately held company. They don't have to build that factor in there. So we look at that and say, okay, well, geez, there's a significant saving. The other nice thing about these things is when you look at these styles of pumps, really the heart of these things, the engines, that mechanical, that's this guy, the mechanism. The nice thing about this is, again, when you look at this, has the same bolting flange, same 7 3/4 inch bolt circumference, so you can pop the sparks out, drop our mechanism, vice versa. So they've got that flexibility. If they already have an installed base, they don't have to replace that pump body. They can just merely change out that mechanism. Considerable cost savings there. I also noted here, non-repairable. Basically, if this thing were to fail for some reason in the field, then has to go back to the factory in South Carolina. That's where they do the evaluation to determine whether or not it was something inherently failed due to manufacturing or something within the field. Now, Jim can attest to this over at Dr. Pepper. This is the nice thing about working with Watson is when we do see something within the field, hey, we've got a problem here, or how can we improve it? What we were receiving over at Dr. Pepper, what they had some traps failed, which were blown back into the receiver, but at the same time, you think about it, you have traps blowing in there. What happens is it causes flashing. When that pump body, that float arm is just bouncing all around. We found out we were getting wear on the bracketing down here in the lower part of that float arm. So what we did on there was chrome this area down here on the pin, and I think since that point we haven't seen that issue. So those are some of the things that we can address very quickly. Outside of that, it is repairable. If you did have to fix this thing, where the wear points, well, these are all chrome now, so you don't really see it on here. You might get a weakening of the springs, so at some point it might hang up, not trip over, or the flow will just drop to the lower level in the pump body, not trip over as well. 2 cotter pins, it's really a cartridge design. If they do one spring at a time, take this one off, put the new one back on and do the same on the reverse side. Everything stays intact. There's no mystery to it. The other repair kit that we have is the motive inlet and exhaust valve. Really, that's all there is to it. You don't need to have a spare on the shelf in the event that this should fail. Just a replacement on the spring kit as well as the motive and exhaust. But just the cost difference alone is significant. You look at this thing. I was with Sparks Arco when we came up with this design. And again, a lot of what Sparks Arco does is marketing driven. And the first thing you think about is, okay, where do we want the spring? Should we have it immersed in the condensate, or like Watson McDaniel? Should we have this? This is never submerged in the liquid level or the condensate level within the pump body. Those are all things that were taken into account as far as marketing. Well, if we put it down in the condensate, the theory was it's not exposed to any gases or anything that might cause fouling on the pins and linkages, so everything was immersed down in the condensate level. Single compression spring, again, just a visual, hey, that sounds pretty good. Watson just uses 2 smaller compression springs. Every time you see something on Sparks Arco, they do it for a reason. You think, what's this little paddle down here? That was something they added on there because of the force when this goes into the tripping mode. What was happening on the Sparks Arco, it was actually breaking the valve head off the motive line. So this little guy down here, this paddle is actually down in the lower part of the pump body, down in the liquid level. So when it would trip, it almost acted like a paddle wheel or a buffer, a shock absorber. It would slow down that tripping action. You can't really see it, but it was just a metal plate about 3.5 to 4 inches wide. But again, significant savings. Operational wise, that Watson mechanism is very durable, very competitively priced, and again, it's made in the US. Chris Drury's had some of these. Here's the low profile pumps. Watson McDaniel PMPTs, just to give you an idea of the cost differences. This is a Sparks Arco APT 14. Capacity is very close. A little different design. They use a front mount mechanism. We still incorporate the top mount. But again, the cost difference on something that performs and operates the same as this guy, but a considerable cost savings on the PMPT. So there's a real advantage here when you look at price. There's no reason to reduce your margins, especially when you're up against Sparks Arco. You think advantage here on the discount multiplier. We talked about the regulators. Really, I'm not just going to get down through, but really, when you look at these guys, these are the differences when we look at the Spence E versus the Sparks Arco. Ductile iron body, cast iron. They use the side mount pilot, which we do, but we've incorporated, this is a great feature, that strainer blowdown. That's a great maintenance tool when you look at it. You think about it, when these systems are off for a period of time, if they've been servicing, or if they're installing the valve, rather than having all that condensate that's collected in the system prior to bringing the valve online, you can actually blow the system down. That doesn't allow that dirt to get into the main valve head seat or into the orifice areas. This is the way that valve comes shipped, just like that with the pilot tubing connected. Spence, if you were to order their valve, you have to add that pilot tubing kit. It's an additional cost. So cost-wise, more competitive. Made in the USA. This guy's made in India now. And this is where we make the pilots for these. That would be your D pilot. We can actually put our pilot on there. Connections are all the same on that guy. And we do the same thing with the Sparks Arco. This design they've never come out with yet, but that's what you see on their website. This was going to be called their 26 series. They designed this years ago, even when I was with Sparks. What they did here was the tubing now is mounted within the footprint of the valve diaphragm casing, but it's still, the current valve still comes out with the tubing which wraps around the outside of that diameter. Just makes it a little more susceptible to damage. Outside of that, when you look at these valves, whether it's the Spence or the Sparks Arco, capacity is the same. If you got a half-inch Spence or Sparks Arcos, Spence, they all match up to the Watson McDaniel capacity as well. They just incorporated a top mount pilot versus a side mount. Nothing wrong with that, except sometimes if you're limited on space, now you're sort of stuck trying to put this valve, maybe mounted at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock just to offset it. You like to have it perpendicular to your steam flanker. The HD valve, you can actually mount that pilot assembly on the front or the back side of the valve. By that I mean if your flow, the standard is if it's coming from right to left, you always want to have that pilot mounted on the front. Easy to maintain, easy to adjust. If your flows are going from right to left, you can tell the factory, hey, mount this stuff on the back side. That way when the customer installs it, again, that pilot's always on the front side of the valve. And just like on the Spence, for years, when Sparks Arco was up in Allentown, PA, Watson McDaniel and Sparks Arco interchanged inventory. This is their pilot, the bottom of it. They actually have one additional port connection, bleed port. For years, that was the standard on the Watson McDaniel, simply because they interchanged that inventory so often. Once Sparks Arco moved south, Watson McDaniel quit putting that additional port tapping in there just to save manufacturing costs. But if your customer does say, hey, I've got a Sparks Arco, I need a pressure pilot or a temperature pilot, for no additional charge, we drill that additional port and we supply it with that same gasket. So again, there's that interchangeability when you look at the product line. This was a flyer that we did, really, I just took those right up. These are the Spence crossovers. So we can do the D pilots, the T14s, even the air pilots. We mount directly to the Spence regulators. Combination pilots, I mean, we can do the same thing on the combination. This is really what, the only reason this slide's in there, this is what we're doing now for Patterson-Kelley. I mean, they just incorporate a solenoid valve into it, but really, that was just part of the presentation on there. But we can do all the different configurations on the Pilot as well. Getting close to the end. Real quick, the traps themselves. How often do you come across, I got a TD52. Not going to change it. This is an investment casting out of China. U.S. domestic product, even on the raw material. So you've got a significant competitive advantage right here. And on top of that, you have a better discount multiplier. You look at these guys, though, has the same face-to-face dimension. No piping changes are required. Same capacities across the board. There's identical. This used to be what Spark Arcos used to look like, the bar stock. Just to save money, though, they farmed it out to China now. Now it's an investment casting out of China. The other thing you might hear people say is, oh, it's got that insulator cap on there. Well, if it's inside, who cares? You're paying for something you don't need. And then you look at the surface area that that thing covers. If it's outside and if it's snowing or raining and it causes this trap to cycle a little more often than not, this isn't really going to help you. If your customer says, hey, I want something like that, and then it's being installed outside, we actually have an insulator cap that actually covers that whole top of that trap body. So really no difference on there. Significant savings though. I mean, to me, this one's a no-brainer. And the reason I'm bringing these up there is really just wanted to show you some of the interchangeability when we talk about, I mean, there's a large installed base around here with Sparks Arco. When I used to work with those guys, we had 7 guys working out of the Philly office, covering small geographic territories. You know, somebody says, hey, I've got a Sparks Arco FT15 or whatever it might be, the 30, 75, 125. You look at these. Here's this Watson McDaniel. This is our WFT. Okay, I'm not going to change the trap manufacturers. If they did have to change out the complete trap, centerline dimensions on the piping, 3.3. These are 3/4 inch traps. Sparks Arcos is 3.3 as well. No piping changes. Hey, I just want to buy a cover assembly. This is the Sparks Arco cover assembly in the Sparks Arco trap body. So even these are interchangeable. So if a customer doesn't have a need to change out the body, you can get the cover assembly. It'll fit right back in there. It has the same orifice sizes, doesn't change capacities. So again, really it's a direct change out, even on the FT traps. So you can get this cover module or cover assembly and retrofit it into the Spark trap and vice versa. Armstrong inverted bucket traps. I think I've told you guys this before. For years, Armstrong made Watson McDaniel's inverted bucket traps. There's no difference on these guys. If you were to look at the Armstrong, this is their 811. Not the best picture, but here's our inverted bucket trap. They're identical. Anything within the 800 series of the Armstrong traps are identical to the Watson McDaniel. There's no difference at all. You could pop this whole top assembly out, drop it into our trap body, and do the same with our internals. Drop it into the Armstrong. There's no difference on those at all. So that's, again, direct change-up. Those are some of the things I try to emphasize is really there's a lot of interchangeability within the product line. It gives your customer that flexibility, but at a more competitive price, made in the USA and on the shelf either here or right over at the factory. I think I had one more. There I did. Oh, we did get that one. Okay. So, any questions on everything we talked about? Good. And again, you know, just like everyone's already familiar, if you do have a question, we're available to go out into the field. We now have actually 3 inside engineers. They could take phone calls, get you any information, design drawings. It's all available, really, right from the factory.
And new price sheet will be out somewhere first of the year or so.
They're talking January 1. I mean, I have a copy of it here right now. We're
So you
just
won't have a
actually
price
proofing it
increase.
right now, but not that big of a jump, considering it's been 3 years since they had a price increase. It really didn't, you know, it's not going to be like, oh, geez, you know, you guys are out of this world.
And our modifier will stay the same?
Yes, yeah, that's not going to change. The new price book, we're trying to make it user friendly. There's a lot of times there's that mentality that, hey, just because we use it every day, we know all the little intricacies that, if you're not familiar with it, we try to make it a little more easier to understand, put these product numbers together, especially when you get into the control valves now, because now there's a lot of configuration on these things. And that's what we're trying to do on the website, is to make these configurators. I don't think let me see if I can have that on here. Why can't I see this? I think this is top secret. Nobody's supposed to have this. I'll leave this on here. This is really where they're at right now with the website. I mean, this is what you can see. This is their current design as far as the biggest thing was, how do I manipulate it? How do I navigate through this website? You hear a lot of times, I tried to find it on your website, but I had no clue where to go. They tried to keep it very simple based on product categories, almost like TOV. I mean, I find their website very easy to navigate through. So you can go in there if you wanted to find information on any one of these product groups, is the way they broke it down. You can do it that way. And a lot of them haven't, mine might be a little outdated here, but yeah. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to do a pilot regulator. Now, some of these will work, and these are the ways you can just sort of flow through the whole process here. Hey, I want to do an HD regulator. I want to configure it. I want to put one together. I need more than just information. Well, here you can see, okay, do I want to do pressure, temperature, combination? Let's just say, to keep it simple, I wanted to do a pressure. Just like we did before, 100 PSI. I'm going to drop it down to 25. Steam load, let's say it was 1,500 pounds an hour. Hope it'll work. There it goes. Gives me options here. It's like, geez, which one do I want to pick? But you're looking at, we said 1,500 pounds an hour. You can select any one of these valves out of here. I'm not sure why it's not showing me the smaller valves. Like I said, it's not done yet, but just to give you an idea, I mean, from there we can, let's say we just select a small, I don't need flange. Okay, now it's going to ask me pilot. Oh, I just want to put on a pressure pilot, okay? And then it asks me what spring range do I want. Let's just say, I'm going to put the blue spring on there. No secondary pilot. We don't need anything else on there. And eventually we'll have this where to just generate a quote, or at least a spec page for you, but it's telling us a 1-inch HD valve with a blue pilot on there. But you can see how easy it is to navigate through this thing. There's going to be a lot of information on here. I mean, you can go through there, and depending on where you select as far as product group, different applications across the board. And then as they build upon this, you guys will be able to log on to the network, check inventory without having to call into the factory, make sure it's on the shelf. You'll have to log in if you want 3D drawings. They're going to have a sign in there for the 3D drawings. You can pull off 3D drawings, or your customer can do that as well once they sign up and get their password for the website. So, I mean, those are all things that are coming down the road. But a lot of this, they may have done more. I mean, I haven't checked to see if they've given me an updated version of the website, but that's pretty much it right there.
So that website's supposed to go live somewhere in the first year, or?
That's what I was told. Yep. Because I talked to him probably about a month ago, and that's their release date. Which will really then put us on par with. I mean, that's the one drawback right now is the TOVs or the Sparks Arcos or the Armstrong. Their websites are more of a resource. And you talk to the younger generation, that's what these guys want. They want everything electronically. Do you have the software to size it? Yes. Do you have the 3D drawings? Yes. Can I print your specs out? Yes. I mean, that's what I hear all the time. Even when you go to the larger mechanicals, the McClure's, the HT lines, those guys inside, that's all they want to incorporate it into their design. Give you an example, HT Lines just did a job at Lehigh University. I spoke with those guys. I said, why don't you give Watson a shot? He goes, I went to your website, didn't find the 3D drawings or the specs. I said, the specs are on there. Really? Where? I had to show them. I said, okay. They went with Sparks Sarko simply because he pulled the 3D drawings and the specs off the thing. He goes, hey, you make my job that easier, much easier. I'll use you guys. So they don't want to call into the factory. Hey, I don't have time. Well, I can send it out to you. I'm not going to make the phone call. You know, time's of the essence. If you have it on the website, I can pull it off. And a lot of times I do the same thing. If you can't find it, you're just going to go to an alternate. In this case, it was Sparks Sarko. But no, there's a lot of good things coming down the road to really almost make us the #1 player at least in the United States right now. You see a significant shift, even with the amount of inquiries we get now. For years, we never got the opportunities. First Energy, I mean, it was something. Even internationally, you guys remember Shave? Remember Shave? He used to be a Spence guy for years. And Shave has been Watson McDaniel's international guy for years. I mean, he just did a huge job over in Saudi Arabia. And Sparks Sarko actually has a facility right there in Saudi Arabia. It was all spec'd out, Sparks Sarko. But Shave was able to walk in, show him our equivalent to whatever was on the project. And it's things like that we see more and more of on a daily basis, where before we never got a consideration on this stuff. But as far as changing out the customer now, it's becoming easier every day as far as interchangeability on the product. We have an equivalent to that. And you saw just on the dollars, there's a significant savings there on the dollar side as well for a comparable product, or maybe even better at that. So those are things that are coming out. But like I said, you know, any questions, don't waste time. Just call into the factory. That's the other nice thing with Sparks Sarko, or I should say Watson versus Sparks Sarko. I was out on a job site, tried to help a guy out with a Sparks Sarko control package. Hey, we couldn't get it to actuate. I actually called their 800 number, got the voicemail. Called down 3 more times. The guy was standing there. You remember Joe Radel with Sparks Sarko? I got Joe Radel. You remember me. And Joe says, I have to get you the information. Well, we stood there for a half hour or so. It was like, couldn't get anybody to call us back. If you call into Watson McDaniel, you get a live body there. So, I mean, that's one of the, service is everything today. And that's something I think that we really have an edge on. And working with you guys, I mean, you've already got an established customer base here. You've got food and bev. I mean, that's a lot of opportunities there. And I think that's where our stainless product line will come in more into play with these guys. But even on the control valve side. Okay?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.